All right. So we've made some progress on the integration with Java application servers and Octopus deploy. So the stuff you've seen before was to do with packages, working with jars natively. I've been working on the other side where we're actually building new Calamari or new functionality into Calamari to deploy to servers. So this is pretty rough at this point. These steps don't actually, or the steps won't exist in the final version. I've just got two dummy ones here that deploy either to Wildfly or Tomcat. I think going forward we'll actually have a specialized deploy package where deploying to an application server will be a feature. But for now, this gets us the ability to test the new functionality. So what I've got at the moment is a remote server that has Tomcat and Wildfly started up. And what I will do is just run through a quick deployment to these so you can see what it looks like. So I'll get rid of that app, so that's no longer there. And so this is a number of steps that deploy a bunch of different kinds of Java applications, both to Wildfly and Tomcat. And so what's actually happening in the background here is there is a new Calamari package called which is called Java for now. So you can see that here. So this lives alongside the original Calamari. So at the moment, this Calamari, or what we're calling Java Calamari, is actually just the Java interface packed up as a NuGet and then sent down again as a Calamari package. In future, there is actually a new project in the Calamari solution, and this Java content here will be imported as a dependency of that, and that project, that .NET project, will become the new Calamari. So that will include all the stuff for dealing with extracting and variable substitution in the Java packages. But for now, we've kind of skipped that step and just deployed the Java application itself that will talk to the application servers as the Calamari. So that's gone through and deployed a whole bunch of different things. So we've got some jars and ears and wars and ras and a whole host of Java goodness. And as we can see, there we go. That's been deployed to Tomcat. So the process is relatively straightforward for an end user. They just select the package they want to deploy. They input some information about the server that they're going to connect to. So they select a package, select the server that's hosting the manager application, username and passwords, and it just gets pushed up. So one of the things I wanted to show you guys, I've talked about it before, but I think it was a bit abstract. What are all these things that we're talking about? Jars and wars and ears and ras. So this is a jar. So I guess most people are familiar with the concept of a jar. It's just a library. In this case, it can also be an executable application in and of itself. So EJB is Enterprise Java Bean, and that contains logic that is run on the application server as a standalone application. So you wouldn't necessarily talk to this through a web browser. It might expose SOAP services or something, but you can deploy jars as executable artifacts. And so these guys just contain class information. So this is just a compiled Java application, and that's the compiled Java class. So the next step up above that is the WAR file. And actually a better example would be this one. So WAR files are typically web applications, sometimes web services, and they contain static resources like HTML, CSS. They also contain compiled Java classes and can additionally themselves contain jar files. So these will be other library files that this particular application works on. And then above that, we have the ear. So this is the sort of the top level container of Java applications. And if we look at this, the ear can contain jars and wars, and wars can then contain more jars. So there's a fair degree of nesting going on here, but this is what these packages look like. And if I go back to my demo server, we can see this is the ear file here. This guy contains two apps. It contains a web application and an EJB jar. And so this is the web application here and the EJB. You just have to take my word for it that it's deployed. So the reason why you might use something like an ear is because your application is conceptually or physically made up of two separate things, maybe a front end and a back end. And you want to be able to deploy those two individual packages as a single unit. The other thing you might want to do is, previous companies I've worked at, we've had multiple applications that all need to be deployed, and then a system check application that sits on top that makes sure that everything's running. And so the deployment process was put into an ear so we could deploy all the apps and then deploy the system check as a final step. And the ear gives us the control of deploying things in certain orders, so we can make sure that everything is deployed and running as we expect. So that's a pretty quick overview of where we're at now with deploying from Octopus to Java. The other thing I wanted to show off quickly was a couple of people have asked the question, so why are we writing anything in Java at all? A lot of this functionality could actually be done in .NET and just use .NET Calamari as a way of interfacing with Java applications. For example, by uploading files over HTTP, there's no particular reason why we need to use Java to do that. One of the reasons was that some of the application servers have libraries that we want to make use of, and those libraries are written in Java. But the second reason that became obvious as I was going through this was that the reason why we want to write this in Java is because we get to make use of a lot of the testing libraries that are available. So in particular, there's this project here, Achillean, I think it's pronounced. And so what this gives us is the ability to build unit tests that incorporate the application servers that we're targeting. So we can have a test that will actually spin up an instance of Wildfly or Tomcat, and then run an example or a test deployment of some of these applications, and then shut everything down without any external infrastructure needed to be set up or managed. So an example of this is, in this case, I'm running the verify command from Maven, which runs the tests, and I'm using the Tomcat profile. And so when I run this, what this is going to do is build up this Java Calamari library, and then create or download and then create an instance of Tomcat 9. And we'll see that in a second. And then start running some of the actions that the Calamari exposes. So deploying Java apps at this point, but in future, other things like dealing with certificates as well. So we've just finished the compile. It's going to start running the test now. And we should start seeing some log messages about Tomcat being started. So this is actually a live instance of Tomcat. It's not a cut down. It's not an embedded. There's nothing special about it. It is just a temporary instance of Tomcat. And then once that's spun up, we've run a bunch of tests against it. And those tests are performing the same actions that we would expect people to be performing from Octopus itself, directly against a live instance of the application server. And so with a few simple tweaks, we can run these same tests against Tomcat 7, 8, or 9. We can run them against Wildfly. 10 or 11. We're also targeting JBoss EAP 6 and 7. And all of the Wildfly and EAP servers have standalone and a domain mode. So you can see the combinations of things that we're targeting is quite large. But just by running these tests against a different profile, we can have these tests automated with every build against all the application servers that we're targeting. And there's no special configuration. This will just sit in Team City and be run without having to spin up VMs or anything. So it's quite easy and quite efficient to start doing these tests. So you can see Wildfly 10 has started up. And we're going to start running a whole bunch of deployments here. So I guess the takeaway from this is that even though the code initially for interfacing with Java application servers will be quite simple, the reason why, or one of the compelling reasons why we should write this this kind of code in Java is because the test is like the bottom 9/10 of the iceberg. So we'll see the things that customers see and the things that customers use will be quite simple and sitting on top, but underneath there's quite a lot of work going on to make sure that what we're pushing out is going to work the way we say it works against all the different configurations that we have. So that is it. I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at where we're at. At this point, having got to here, I think stuff will start progressing fairly quickly now. We've kind of laid a lot of the groundwork for this integration. So hopefully we can start getting some of this out and into the hands of the customers shortly. And that's me.